Good morning, everyone. Welcome to How to Create a Lead Generation System That Works. I'm Lyndall Briggs. This is all about taking control of the lead generation process by generating the kind of leads that literally want to become ideal clients, and lots of them. We're talking about the key fundamentals required for your lead generation system to actually work. And when we say work, we mean break records. We mean create a system that's a machine, something you can literally turn off and turn on at will. This is not airy-fairy stuff. This is strategic, systematic and reliable. Today's presenter is Jen Barnes. Talk about a wealth of first-hand experience in small business ownership. She's got it. Now, Jen comes at this in a deeply practical way because she's lived it and breathed it, having revolutionised not only her own businesses, but now scores of others, including mine. Over the last 20 years or so, Jen has started, built, bought, sold, franchised, partnered, and mentored many businesses. Seriously, she tells me regularly her only regret is not finding this training sooner. Now, this session will demystify your sales process, break it into parts, so you can replicate it in your own business. The first half of today's session is education. The second half looks at this from a real-world perspective. And remember to jot down any questions because we'll leave a good time for a decent question and answer session at the end. Okay, folks, let's get this show on the road. Let's get your lead generation working. Over to you, Jen.
Thank you, Lyndall. Morning, everyone. Okay, today's presentation is going to show you a system for marketing your business to a point where it becomes instantly obvious to all of your prospects that they would be mad to do business with anyone other than you at any time, anywhere, or at any price. Today I'm going to show you how you can leverage what you're already doing. And just by changing the way you do your marketing and advertising, change everything in your business. We're not talking about radical changes here. Just simple, common sense changes that are a breakthrough in marketing. They're easy to understand and implement. I'm going to show you what your marketing is supposed to look like, but probably more importantly, what it's not supposed to look like. This marketing system is based on the unchanging principles of human nature that dictate when people, everyone, when they're buying anything, they want to make the best decision possible. Therefore, your job and my job as marketers of our business is not to ramble on about how great we are or how long we've been in business or what our pricing is. Our role is to position our potential clients so that they've got total control over their decision-making process based on them having enough quality information so that they can determine that they're getting the best value for money. Now, right up front, there's a core distinction that I want you to understand, and that's the fundamental difference between strategic marketing and tactical marketing. Strategic marketing is the content of your message. It's what you're saying and how you're saying it. Tactical marketing, on the other hand, is where your strategic message is seen. So we're talking about where you're running your ads, your website, trade shows, what you say at a breakfast networking event, things like that. 99% of the time, whenever I ask any business owner what their marketing plan is, the answer almost always comes back in terms of tactical marketing. And that's where they're running their ads. But the key to effective marketing is to master the strategic side, not the tactical. Understand this really comprehensively. What you say in your marketing and how you say it is always more important than the marketing medium in which you're saying it. The real leverage is in the messaging itself, and that is 100% on the strategic side of marketing. In fact, you probably remember this, think about this yourself. When a campaign bombs, the tendency is to blame the marketing medium, like the television station or the radio station, which is the tactical part of the plan, without any regard whatsoever to how good or bad the strategy or the content of your message was. During this presentation, you're going to learn how to say things in such a way that will make a profound difference in your marketing and to the results you're getting, no matter how crowded your particular industry sector is. This revolutionary lead generation system works with all kinds of businesses, absolutely no exceptions. And I've got to say, over the last 3 or 4 months, we've been having particular success with professional services businesses, which is why we're putting this presentation together for you especially. Strategic messaging is so important that we've actually nicknamed it the missing marketing link. The reason why everything you currently know about marketing does not allow you to accurately portray the inside reality of what your business is to the outside world is a product of doing marketing the wrong way. In the very early days of advertising, I'm talking the late 1800s, the early 1900s, much of the advertising that existed back then was comparative in nature. Ads wouldn't just say, hey, we're better. They'd say, hey, we're better, and here's exactly why. Back then, advertising did a pretty good job of building a case and helping prospects understand the important issues regarding that particular product or service. The result was that the outside perception was generally a pretty good reflection of the inside reality of that particular business. Then, the most significant event in the history of marketing occurred in 1945. Television was commercially introduced for the very first time. Up until then, total national distribution of any advertising message was extremely limited and very expensive, using massive networks of radio and print advertising. But with the introduction of television, large advertisers could buy a TV commercial and reach just about every living person in the country for around about $4,000 a minute. And they were usually sold back then in 1 or 2 minute blocks. I mean, what a bargain, even in 1950s money. Back then, there were only 2 or 3 channels. So demand quickly outstripped supply and the prices shot through the roof. In response to the rising cost, the length of commercials shrank down from 2 minutes to 30 seconds. This meant that advertisers had less time to educate us as to the important and relevant issues surrounding their business and build a case as to why they were different, better, or unique. So instead of attempting to use shorter ads that highlighted comparative benefits, advertisers changed tactics and started using slogans. That change made it harder and harder for the outside perceptions to accurately reflect the inside reality of their business. But remember, marketing's first job is just to get the prospect's attention. Even running a 30-second ad, getting attention still wasn't a problem for these advertisers, for these big advertisers. But then what? That's right. After you grab a prospect's attention with your marketing, you must next facilitate their decision-making process. Back then, companies and their ad agencies found that this was a lot harder to do in just 30 seconds. But what they also found out is that they didn't really need to do it. Because back then the number of real competitors, that is, the number of other big companies that had the money to to afford to advertise on national television and run ads up against them was wonderfully few. They could spend a ton of money running 30-second ads and win by default. Now, if there happened to be 2 or 3 major competitors jockeying for the same clients, like the Pepsi and Cola duel, that was fine because there was plenty of business to divide 2 or 3 ways. The bottom line is that a company's inside reality and outside perception no longer had to match up. The lack of choices eliminated that necessity. So the focus for all marketing and advertising shifted to simply getting the prospect's attention. That's when advertising lost its focus on selling and shifted its focus to creativity. The idea was to get into the consumer's brain with something creative that would stimulate them and cause them to recall the product later on. That's when slogans really did become the de facto marketing standard that's still in use today. Breakfast of Champions, home of the Whopper, beans means Heinz. You get the idea. This new creative approach took over advertising as we now know it and has filtered into all other advertising medium, including radio, newspaper, billboards, yellow pages, and of course more recently, the online world. Once this new creative message was in place, the big companies spent lots of money and basically gave people no other option but to remember their message. After hearing things go better with Coke for the 8,000th time, you're going to remember that whether you want to or not. We call this C&R advertising. C for creativity, R for repetition. We also call this the era of the brand builders. This all came out of the 1950s, 60s and 70s. Think about the Mad Men era. This was the no-brainer formula for market dominance for the companies with the budget to pull this off. And when I say budget, I'm talking national advertising head-to-head with the other big boys in the industry. And that's when it happened. Ad agencies started running this very same formula for all of their other clients, even the ones that are smaller and certainly didn't have deep pockets or massive advertising budgets. They couldn't get the repetition required to sink into the prospect's brain. Business schools started teaching marketing and advertising based on these methods that were being successfully implemented by the largest companies in the world. I mean, they've got to be right, don't they? And churning out graduates who only know one way to do marketing. Brand builder marketing and advertising became the de facto standard for how you do it. And after a few years, no one ever questioned the formula. Which brings us to the crux of the problem. All of us alive today, with no exceptions, and we're all in charge of businesses with ad budgets, grew up in an era where almost all the advertising you've ever seen or heard is a product of the era of the brand builders. As a result, we've all become conditioned as to what constitutes a good ad. We've learned the fundamental pattern for what to put into an ad. We've learned about slogans and jingles and being funny. We learned in marketing and advertising the outside perception no longer has to reflect the inside reality of your business. Let me repeat. Everything you've ever been taught about generating leads and growing your business is wrong. And now you know why. As a result of this new breed of advertising, jargon has now started to dominate all marketing and advertising. Think of jargon as words or phrases that are drearily commonplace. They're really predictable. They lack power to evoke interest through overuse and repetition. However, We all state them in our marketing as though they're original and significant. In advertising, you see and hear jargon all the time. Since businesses have only got 30 seconds to try and convey what makes them special, they lump everything into jargon, such as largest selection, most professional, lowest prices, highest quality, best service, fastest, most convenient, largest in the universe, more honest, we're the experts. We specialise, we work harder. Love this one. Gets the job done right first time and been in business for 4,000 years. Okay, that's a stretch. Look, I'm not saying that you shouldn't be these kind of things. In fact, they make up the foundation of your inside reality. But consider this. If my marketing says that I offer high quality and great service, isn't that commonplace and predictable? It lacks power through overuse and repetition. And aren't all my competitors saying the same thing? Ask yourself, does your inside reality of your business really shine through this jargon? You simply can't describe, demonstrate, or exhibit the speciality of the inside of your business using jargon. It's impossible. Stop trying. And unfortunately, the end result is an outside perception. So think about this from your prospective customers and clients' perspective, that everybody looks the same. There's absolutely no distinction, no separation, and no differentiation between you and your competitors. Absolutely none. You simply can't make your inside reality and outside perception match up when you use jargon like this. Just take a look at your advertising or your website and run jargon evaluation technique number 1. Well, I would hope so. When you make a claim, don't think about it in terms of the words coming out of your mouth. Think about it in terms of the words entering your prospect's ears. This will enable you to realize just how absurd most jargon sounds. Look at the messaging in your marketing and then ask yourself if the prospect's immediate response might not be, well, I would hope so. Here are some classic examples. Satisfaction guaranteed, free quotes, we accept Visa and MasterCard. Well, I would hope so. Okay, the problem is that if your business has an exceptional inside reality and you're using the same jargon as everybody else, all of your competitors, then the outside perception is that you're all the same. And that's when prospects default to the business offering the lowest price. Price has now become the only determining factor left. Okay, evaluation technique number 2 is called Who Else Can Say That? Stop thinking in terms of who else can do what I do. Instead, think in terms of who else can say what you say. Because the answer, unfortunately, is usually anybody and everybody can say what you say. The last jargon detection technique is called the scratch out and write in test. Have a look at your brochure or your website. Now, scratch out your name and write in your competitor's name. That's it. If the marketing is still valid, if the website still conveys the same basic message, then guess what? You just failed that test. Is it evident that this might be a problem for you now? But a tremendous competitive advantage if you could figure out how to fix this problem for your own business. Introducing what we call the conversion equation. This will enable you to eliminate jargon forever. It also enables you to become a communications powerhouse, making your outside perception an excellent reflection of your inside reality. And finally, you'll begin to get the results from your marketing that you should have been getting all along. The conversion equation, I love it, by the way. I love the conversion equation, has 4 main components. The first is the interrupt. This is simply the process of getting your ideal customer to pay attention to your marketing, and that's best achieved by appealing to them emotionally. The second component is to engage. Once you've interrupted, promise your prospect a solution and information to help them make the best decision possible. This is also best accomplished on an emotional level. The third component is to educate. Give them, once you've interrupted and engaged them, give them information that allows them to logically understand how and why you can solve that emotional problem. Now, this is accomplished by giving detailed, inside reality revealing information. This turns the corner from an emotional sell to a logical one. And the fourth and final component is the offer. Now, the prospect is engaged emotionally and logically. The last step is for you to give that prospect a low, or better yet, no risk way for them to take the next step into your sales process. This can be accomplished by offering a free marketing tool, such as a report, video content, seminar, something that educates them even more. The prospect is in complete control of the decision-making process. This conversion equation follows the formula for what marketing is supposed to have been doing in the first place, namely, to interrupt, engage, educate, and offer. Now let's look at the reticular activator. This is the part of your brain that's on the lookout 24/7, even when you're asleep. Hold on, I've skipped something here. Okay, now let's start looking at things from your prospect's perspective. If you want to know what Jane Doe buys, you need to see the world through Jane Doe's eyes. If you want to know what Jane Doe sees, you first better understand how Jane Doe's brain processes information and goes about making a decision. And this process involves these 3 major concepts. No one in the world of marketing seems to be applying these to marketing, but they're going to make all the difference in the world to your marketing's effectiveness and your company's profitability. These 3 things are downtime, uptime, and the reticular activator. All right, so downtime is the hypnotic state of running automatic processes. This allows your brain to perform habitual tasks without any conscious thought whatsoever. In marketing terms, people see and hear ads with their eyes and ears, but they don't take notice of them on a conscious level. Uptime is the brain's state of alertness or active engagement. In marketing terms, prospects can consciously notice your marketing piece and they're open to your suggestions or solutions. The key to marketing is to get your prospects out of downtime and into uptime. Once you understand how to do this with your ideal customer, you'll have the ability to make a fortune with your marketing. Now let's look at that reticular activator. This is the part of your brain that's on the lookout 24/7, even when you're asleep. It constantly scans the environment looking for things that fall into any of these 3 categories. Things that are familiar, things that are unusual, or things that are problematic. When the brain detects any of these 3 categories on a subconscious level, it sends a message over to the conscious side of your brain and says, oi, wake up, there's something you need to pay attention to. Whatever those familiar, unusual, or problematic things are, we call them activators. Whenever the reticular activator finds one, it pokes your conscious brain and snaps it out of downtime and into uptime mode. So what does all this have to do with marketing then? The short answer is absolutely everything. Understanding what wakes people up so they pay attention to what you're saying is going to get your marketing message past the interrupt stage and into the engage stage. And when we engage our ideal prospects, we've just increased our chances of them becoming a client by 1,000%. This is going to solve the problem that every other marketer hasn't been able to figure out, which is not just about getting them interrupted, but also getting them engaged. Not just finding any old activator, but finding the dead right activator for a particular niched target market. Any idiot can simply interrupt people. In fact, that's really quite easy to do. The so-called marketing gurus with ponytails and Porsches are doing it all day, every day. Those guys prefer to use activators that are based on things that are familiar and unusual because they're the easiest to pull off. Have you ever noticed how many animals are used in advertising? That's because animals are familiar and likable. The idea is that those animals will interrupt you by poking your conscious brain when they're detected by your reticular activator. Chum has a Scotty dog, Bundy Rum has its bear. All of these animals have good interim value based on their familiarity and likability. That's also the major reason that big advertisers use celebrities, based on familiarity. And what about activators based on unusual things? Well, that's what creativity is all about. Creativity's main purpose in advertising is to dream up something so weird, so strange, so shocking, or so unusual, that it just simply snaps you out of downtime and into uptime, which we now know is the interrupt. But here's the key, and what just may be the most important thing you'll learn in today's presentation. Once the brain has been activated, that is, once it's been broken out of downtime and into uptime alert mode, it wants to be engaged. So it immediately and subconsciously is searching for additional clarifying information. It's searching for additional facts. If it finds them, it'll become engaged. If not, it'll snap back to downtime. We call these relevant issues hot buttons. Example, if you're a cricket fan and your reticular activator spots Shane Warne on TV, it notices it on a conscious level because Shane Warne's familiar. He's an activator. Then your brain immediately asks, oh, hey, what's Shane Warne doing with hair replacement? Is there something here for me that's relevant or important? In other words, is this a hot button issue for me at this point in my life? If it is, fine. If it's not, snap back to downtime. An activator is something that snaps a person from downtime to uptime, okay? And it's based on something familiar, unusual, or problematic. But an activator can also be classified as a hot button if and only if it's based on something that's important and relevant to your ideal prospect. Your best chance to successfully interrupt and engage your ideal client is to identify problems, frustrations, uncertainties, and annoyances that your ideal clients have, and then address them in your marketing. In most cases, their pain is their hot button. All we're doing here is tapping into their problems they already have. We're not trying to manufacture a crisis or anything here. We're merely poking their problems, pointing them out so that their reticular activator notices them, brings them up onto the active radar screen so that the prospect can determine whether this is a solution for them in their life. Now, here's the key point to all of this, and one that none of the big agencies seem to understand, but one that you need to know in order to make all of this work for you. The activators that are used to interrupt the prospect must be based on relevant hot buttons. If not, the prospect will be momentarily interrupted and quickly snapped down to downtime, as in the Shane Warne example earlier. You can imagine that's called false uptime. This happens in marketing and advertising all the time. Most marketing interrupts, but just simply does not engage. You've been conditioned to believe, as long as you've interrupted a prospect, that that's it, that that's good enough. But you need to realize that if you only interrupt the prospect, that's only 1/4 of the conversion equation. You've got to include all 4 components: interrupt, engage, educate, and offer to get the maximum results from your marketing and advertising. Now, when it comes to writing marketing, we need to portray the hot buttons in the form of headlines. The headline is the first opportunity you have to interrupt Jane Doe. You've got maybe 1 to 3 seconds to interrupt the prospect. So the headline has got to have activators in it. Activators that relate specifically to a very niched, ideal target market, that are based on things important to them and them alone. Remember, hot buttons are words and phrases that describe problems or frustrations that the prospect is feeling, so that their reticular activator latches onto them and snaps them into uptime. Let me give you a quick example. Given there's so many from the professional services sector here, I picked a random legal website. You can see here that this looks pretty standard. The headline space there is Alexandra Solicitors, family, property, divorce, litigation, wills, been in business 35 years. Very standard website. The conversion equation is missing entirely. And there's no lead capture mechanism at all. Why do we want to know what their building looks like? It has nothing to do with the legal problems that the prospect has. So do you see what I mean? When no one's getting it, that everything you know about or ever been told about marketing is wrong. Here's a legal firm that it's a beta stage test campaign at the moment. But here's how this looks, how niching down into a particular target market looks in the legal world. What legal impacts will your marriage have when you marry? Did you know your will is invalid when you marry? What else don't you know? Okay, those concepts for somebody who's about to get married are hot buttons. They are relevant hot button issues. There's some educational content there just to validate and to turn that from an emotional into a logical sale. And if they're wanting to download a risk profiler, that they can do that at no charge. That is the conversion equation, literally in action. Okay, to wrap this discussion up about interrupt and engage, let me address the topic of engage specifically for just a moment. To successfully engage, all you have to do is use a sub-headline that promises the reader, if they keep reading or listening to the ad, they will get information that will facilitate them making the best decision possible for this hot button issue in their life. This is not sales information. This is not how great we are information, but rather bona fide decision facilitating information. Sometimes the headline itself will engage, but more frequently it's the sub-headline that makes the promise to educate and therefore does most of the engaging. in that previous example, what else don't you know? It's powerful. Now here's the real key to success in your marketing. The right offer allows you to capture a large percentage of all future buyers, in addition to those looking to buy right now. There's an educational process that the prospect goes through. And I've skipped ahead again. My apologies, folks. Okay, this brings us to the third and fourth component of the conversion equation, which is educate and offer. I mentioned earlier in the presentation that every marketing piece should contain a no-risk offer to encourage the prospect to take the next step. And that offer should generally be to receive additional decision-making information, something that educates them further and at the same time builds your case. Here's the real success in marketing. The right offer allows you to capture a large percentage of all future buyers, in addition to those looking to buy right now. There's an educational process that the prospect goes through from the moment they begin thinking about marketing or buying your product, so before they're thinking about buying your product or service, to the point where they actually complete the purchase. Most marketing only caters to those now buyers. They're people who are just dead keen to buy today. They've got an emergency going on and they need help today. But does very little for those who are somewhere in the research process, but who are going to buy later. And I've got to tell you, here's the problem with that. Those urgent, desperate now buyers at any given moment represent a tiny 1 to 5% of all those who are ultimately going to buy what it is that you sell. So you've got 95% of your prospects who are thinking about it in research mode. They're just attempting to gather information and nobody's giving it to them. This is where the fourth component of the conversion equation becomes absolutely huge. Your offer gives you the opportunity to provide additional educational decision-making information to the 99% in information gathering mode, and in the process capture valuable information about who these people are so that you can proactively market to them on an ongoing basis. The legal firm offered information on legal risks when getting married, the one we looked at earlier. But there's a great part, but here's the great part about having this kind of offer. When prospects go online to request the free information, the legal firm has now captured their name and email address, their contact information, so that they can proactively communicate with those prospects from now on by providing them with additional decision-making information until they finally become ready to buy. Depending on what you sell and the nature of your business and your specific situation, there are about 8 main types of informational offers that we tend to create and offer for this sort of purpose. If you want to dominate your marketplace, you have got to get your offers right as well. So I'm hoping that this is coming together for you now. Interrupt, engage, educate, and offer make up the conversion equation. And that equation is literally the backbone of all the incredibly successful marketing campaigns we've ever put together. So let's go ahead and wrap this up. You can probably tell from the depth of this information that this process is a bona fide, step-by-step system that helps business owners just like you become financially free by using superior marketing that literally makes your phone ring. This is about generating leads in volume, delivering you the perfect ideal customers. Okay, that ends today's theory. What we're up to now is my story, essentially. It's it's how I got involved with this in the first place. Okay, it's not a professional services firm, but it demonstrates just how profound applying these fundamentals are in the real world. Okay, so you can imagine I've got this flooring contracting business in Sydney. I'm talking, 5 guys in utes, sales reps, receptionists, ad budgets, you name it. So I'm generating leads. It's all about that. So back then, radio was what I used mostly, and each campaign tended to be around about 10 grand. Now, what I'm going to tell you today is a worst case and a best case scenario, because it really does illustrate how profound applying this process is. So a campaign would normally run for around about 10 days, and this, I repeat, is a worst case scenario. The phone rang 15 times, resulting in one job at 2 grand. You don't need to be a Rhodes Scholar for that one. That's a net loss of $8,000. And I've got to say, losing money on ad campaigns was way too typical. Breaking even was fine. Making a bit of money was great. Okay, what I want to show you is after I applied the conversion equation and these principles to my business, what happened. I was spending way less on my radio campaigns. And by changing what the ad said, by applying that conversion equation, really drilling down into specific, like niches of niche markets, instead of getting 15 calls and 1 sale, my best result was 137 calls, and I closed 37 of them. Applying a pricing strategy, I actually increased my average sale to 2.5 grand. So that's a 92,000 versus an 8K loss. That there is a worlds apart on one campaign. These principles, when you apply them into your business, really is about getting a much greater bang for your marketing buck. So by the time I'd gotten these kind of results out of my business, it was about just over 3 years ago now. Thankfully, I revolutionized that business to a point where I could sell it and move on to something that really called to me. And considering my original qualifications, I came out of uni with, ironically, marketing qualifications, and realizing that I too was a product of the brand builder marketing and doing marketing the wrong way, I've become a bit of a Joan of Arc for the small business sector. I want to show as many fellow business owners out there the power of this stuff. Where we excel as a team here is showing businesses how to generate leads in volume. And I'm talking about leads that easily convert into clients by spending far less, in fact, usually a tiny fraction of what they're currently spending on their marketing and advertising. Now, shut your eyes for a second. What would your business look like if you dramatically reduced what you're spending in advertising while significantly increasing your response rate? I'm telling you, just the systems that you've seen here today guarantee to double, at least double, what your current response rates are. But now that we're working with all sorts of clients in all sorts of sectors, we're regularly seeing 10 times the response rates coming through. And I can't tell you how satisfying that is from my perspective. It gives me a joy I cannot express. And I tell you what, they're pretty happy about it too. We apply these fundamentals, and especially the conversion equation, to websites and marketing and businesses all day, every day. It actually never misses. We work with some large organizations, but vastly more small businesses and even some startups we believe in. We know our stuff when it comes to accelerating small business owners through that hand-to-mouth, desperate financial stage through to financial certainty. In fact, we've refined our processes to such a point that our next book, it's the entire focus of it, which opens up an opportunity for everybody who's here today there's a section in this book about finding any small business owner at least $10,000 trapped inside your current marketing. And that's regardless of market type, product, or service. Because this just hasn't been done before, what we need is data. We need research data and lots of it. So I'm offering everybody today who's here on this webinar a 50-minute sales and marketing analysis where and this is at absolutely no charge whatsoever, we unlock at least $10,000 and usually a whole lot more that's trapped inside the way you're currently doing your marketing. Normally we charge, just under $500 for this, but we're offering it at absolutely no charge until we get the data we need. And yep, there's always a catch, and ours is we're going to need your written okay to use your data in our research. We just need the paper trail somewhere. This is de-identified. It's not about naming you or your business. It's simply about your sector, how much we unlocked, and how long it took to do that. We really can only take about eight appointments each week, so this really is in a first in, first served basis. They're one-on-one consultations, and they happen either over the phone or online, and this is not about getting into your office or selling you anything. So if you're sitting there and you're curious to see this applied to your business, to really see the financial impacts of an accelerated lead generation system in your business using your actual numbers, as well as unlock well over $10,000 that I bet your bottom dollar is trapped in your current marketing, go to the control panel bit there for go to webinar and pop in your email address, and later on today, I'll email the links directly to our appointment calendars so that you can pick a time that suits you for this. What I'll also do is send a bio of Bruce Donaldson, who is another partner here at the Smart Biz Project. He's the trainer or mentor side of the business. I'll give you a bit of a bio about him if you'd rather have your consultation with him or me. You can just choose whichever one. Look, and you might want to, when you're popping your email address in, you might want to pop your mobile number in too. We've had a few issues with the booking software. It bounces back and does bizarre things. So if you're really keen, add your mobile number in too so that we can contact you if it goes all skew with. Okay, so can you find yourself there in the question panel? I'll open that up now so that I can see who is there and who is not. Where are we? Questions. Okay, great. Okay, a few of you got them in there. That looks wonderful. Okay, so using the question panel, also pop any questions you might have. So I'm just scrolling through it now. Michael's asked, are slides available for this presentation? Yes, they will be. I will send you a link to the full recording of today's session. You'll have that in the same email as the ability to booking a session. Julie, I think I've answered your question. How do you sign up for the free consultation? Julie, we will send you the link so that you can book it straight into our calendars. You can pick me or Bruce. Okay, I've got any other questions? Does anyone have any actual questions here? Oh, Stefano, thank you. I've found your email address and your number. Thank you very much. How much is a consultation? Rosemary, the consultations are free. They're absolutely free. James has asked, after the 50-minute consult, what happens? It's quite a profound experience, these consultations. What happens is we work through this conversion equation and what we call a 5-step profit formula on your business. And what you see is how is the power of this in your business in action. What you do with that information is entirely up to you. You may want to get us involved at some point, or you may not. That is entirely your call. But what you will see is what's possible from migrating from a tactical marketing base into a strategic marketing base, and that there is my mission done. That's what I'm all about, is seeing people getting through that desperate lead revenue struggle and into the financial certainty sector. Okay. Julie's asking about a newsletter that goes out monthly. Okay, Julie's asking an interesting question in terms of how do you use the conversion equation to build like a soft sale. She's saying that her target market doesn't like to be sold to. Julie, that's about the educate. That's about not using sales information. That's about getting into the head of that ideal customer and talking about their hot button issues. Stop focusing about telling about what you do. Start focusing on the problems and those hot button issues that your ideal clients have. However, Julie, if you've booked a session, we can talk about that directly. Brian's asked an interesting question. Can you tell us more about the longer term business goals of the project? Are you talking about the project, the Smart Biz project, as in our business? I'm assuming that that's what you're after. This is it, essentially, Brian. We are about, the majority of what we do is about delivering this education to small business owners. We also take on the occasional client here and there and work with them direct. But yeah, this is all about education. We all have other business interests, but this is something we do like this philanthropic Joan of Arc that I was telling you about earlier. But yes, we do take on clients in specific projects. Rosemary, we're based in Sydney. Faye's asked an interesting one. Is this possible to put this in place for a business that hasn't done any marketing at all? And Faye, I'm going to have to say to you, absolutely. If you haven't done any marketing, that's actually the best time to start off in the right way. Most of us have been in there doing things the wrong way. So undoing stuff is a process as well. So if you haven't got anything in place and you start this way, is an ideal situation. Julie is asking about the 5-step profit formula. Julie, what I'm going to do is send you a link to another piece of webinar training that we give also for no charge, and that's based purely on the 5-step profit formula. What that is, it looks at the 5 steps involved in the revenue generation for a business, the bottom line profit. It's about leads, sales conversions, transactions, and increasing the number of transactions per client. It's about your pricing and about your profit margins. But I can send you some more information about that. Julie, make sure that you've put your email address in somewhere. I'll take a last question now because I'm mindful that we've gone over time. Andrew's asked, for a company with multiple products and services, do you advocate setting up a landing page with email capture for each product and service in place of the normal what we do? Andrew, comprehensively, yes, you would, in a situation like that, you would break your products into sections relevant for specific target markets. Keep in mind, don't go product for product, go for target market to target market. And when I say target market, this is not about the old, males to females 18 to 25. Get down, drill down further. They're males to females 18 to 25 with 2 kids living in the western suburbs, or as much as big as niched as you can be is how you want to approach your marketing and your various let's say landing pages, if you were going to go down that track. Okay, I'll better close this off now, but the biggest takeaway today, guys, I will answer any other questions directly because I really am conscious that I've gone over time. The biggest takeaway today, guys, is that hold on a second, I moved a page over, is that information without application is absolutely useless. So notes on your jotter pad right now is not going to change things in your business. So if you're serious and want to see this applied in your business and, you know, at the same time unlock at least $10,000 trapped inside your current marketing, I guarantee it's a lot more than that, as well as get the conversion calculator and the marketing messaging tool, both fabulous tools to have for any marketer, make sure you put that email address of yours and preferably your mobile number as well, just in case it goes skew-whiff, in the question panel before you leave today's session. I'm going to leave this open for about another minute or so that if you haven't found that question panel yet, you can. Any other questions? That's my email address, jen@smartbizproject.com. Okay, so bye for now, and here's to your success.